Hey, everybody. It's Nancy Cameron Aziz with First Team Real Estate. And today we're talking about something that we're seeing a lot more of in real estate transactions, and that is wire fraud. And so today we have Barbara Myers. She is the branch manager at Coast City's Escrow Newport Beach office, and she is a senior escrow officer. And she is here to tell us everything she knows about it so you can protect yourself. So welcome, Barbara.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate the time. Yeah, so off, I would really just like to hear what is wire fraud in relation to real estate transactions?
Well, it's twofold, really. It affects the buyers in that somebody impersonates escrow or swoops in that isn't escrow and gives the buyer the incorrect wiring instructions for the transaction, causing them to wire funds to a fraudulent account. And if you don't act fastly enough, lose their money. On the seller side, and even on the real estate agent side, because a lot of agents like to be paid by wire, the same thing can happen. They swoop in on that side, intercept the wiring instructions to me. And if I don't call and clarify with my clients, I then send the money to the wrong place. So basically, it involves really smart people up to no good
Mhm.
trying to intercept wiring instructions so that they can take the money for themselves.
And we can be talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars per transaction, and that could make somebody lose their life savings.
And it has. It has. There are real life stories about that where clients have lost every penny and are now living with their parents
Ah,
because they lost their, all cash transactions, for instance. That could be over $1 million in some of these price points, 2, 3, $4 million. So you can imagine if they're successful, it's a whole lot of money.
horrible. It's
Yeah, it's
really
really tragic.
devastating.
Yeah.
So I pulled up a couple of figures from the FBI. So the FBI says in 2023, its Internet Crime Complaint Center received over 880,000 complaints with potential losses exceeding $12.5 billion, billion with a B. It's a lot
Yeah.
of money there.
Yes.
And that's a 22% increase over the year before. And you yourself, you're seeing more of it in your own offices, correct?
Yeah, so it's everywhere. It is everywhere. And no matter how many times, it really boils down to communication between the agents and escrow, a consistency in the information and a repetitive nature of that information is what protects them. But they are sneaky, and every day they come up with a different way or something a little bit, a subtle shift. And if you're not on your game and not watching for that, you could very easily fall prey to it. I've been fortunate enough on my files personally, I've never had anybody be successful.
Awesome.
But I've had to save files where they have been. And it's just awful. It really is.
So would you say you're seeing a level of sophistication kind of ramping up with them, or they're just kind
Totally.
of okay?
They evolve. They evolve. When you think that you've protected them,
Mhm.
or got them down, they'll try something else. And they're bright. These people are very bright. And so they just keep changing and evolving their tactics to try and stay one step ahead. And so I'm always surprised when I hear of something new that they've done, and it just adds one more level that I have to watch out against. So they are constantly evolving, and I doubt that they'll stop. All they need is one file. Think about it. If you
Right,
got one file, one multi-million-dollar file, just
right.
imagine.
So the reason that I really wanted to talk to you was you said obviously you've stopped a number of these, but you had a recent case that you were able to thwart and save somebody's money, their
Mhm.
down payment. And I know you can't talk about the specifics of that. Obviously, that's private, but I just wonder if you can kind of generally talk about basically what happened.
Oh, yeah, totally. It was at the start of every transaction, I always send my clients an email letting them know what my wire fraud protection procedure is
Mhm.
and letting them know how they need to wire. And then I call them and I tell them this. And then I send a closing funds alert and
Yeah.
tell them again. So do you see the pattern, right? So I'm
Yeah.
constantly telling them.
Mhm.
And what happens is these fraudsters, they're kind of lurking out there. and they're watching all the emails go back and forth between escrow and the clients. My email is 100% secured
Mhm.
and encrypted, but not everybody else in the transaction is. So they find a weak point, get in there, see that I'm asking for funds to close, and then swoop in, intercept it, and try and be me to the client. So the client called actually to chastise me for sending the wrong wiring instructions. Thank God he called, because I tell everybody to call before they send any money. And I picked up the phone and said, no, that's not from me. And he said, oh, yes, it is. It says right here. And I said, no, it's not. Look at your computer. And this is tip number one. Never get wiring instructions on your cell phone ever. Don't do any banking in a transaction on your cell phone ever. Go to a laptop computer so that the entire email is at your right there in front of you. And I told him, look at the email, take your cursor and hover it over my name. And when he did, the email address that popped up was not mine. Escrow was misspelled. My phone numbers were incorrect. The bank was wrong. I mean, everything was wrong about it. And he caught it and went, oh. And so thankfully he hadn't sent his money. If he had, that was
Yeah.
700 somewhat $1,000 going to the wrong place.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's
Terrifying.
terrifying. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so you were just talking about one of the things that folks can do to protect themselves, and that is, make sure that you open up the email on your laptop. But
Always.
what are some other things that people can do to prevent becoming a victim?
Well, besides that, just don't do any banking on. I mean, even when you're sending your money, with the portals that they have at all banks nowadays, technically speaking, you can do it from your, sitting in your home. I even recommend going to the bank. Go to the bank, to give it to the teller so everything's okay. But the first thing, don't do banking on your phone ever. The second thing is always check the email instructions. Really, I think it's a good idea to talk to the escrow officer at the beginning of the transaction. I do that all the time so I can hear them, because how do I know that the person I'm talking to is actually the buyer, right? Or even the seller for that matter.
Right.
So I always get to know the clients. They get to know me. They know the way I communicate, my style. And that's half the battle, because these emails will come over and normally they're from foreigners and the grammar is just a little bit off. It doesn't quite sound like me. And that helps them pick up the attempts. So basically get to know the person that you're working with. I know everybody is so hurried and they love the advantages of electronic signature portals and the like.
Sure.
But in this particular case, getting to know the people that you are working with and the personal touch of your escrow officer is number one, because that way you have that confidence that you're talking to the right person and vice versa. Number two, never send any wire ever throughout the transaction, ever, without talking to escrow to confirm the wiring instructions. Make sure you call before you send the wire. Never accept wiring instructions with an account number on it. I always leave mine off on purpose. And it says, call escrow to get the account number, because I don't like any account number exchanged over email, even if I use a secure portal. I always make them call me. And never accept wiring instructions from anybody other than escrow, which means if you're a real estate agent and you say to me, oh, I'd like to deliver this to my client, my answer would be no, because I'm trying to remove any barrier between me and the client. Lenders like to be helpful and send it. And I'll say, no, I don't want to send it. Right. So those are just a couple of the items, but honestly, calling would save all of it. If you just call before you send any wire and you know the person that you're talking to, you won't have this trouble. It literally comes down to basics.
Yeah, yeah. Just as far as red flags, we already talked about misspellings, wrong names, incorrect email address. But are there any other red flags? I was hearing something about, if there's like, do this now, kind of the urgency thing.
Yeah, urgency. And also there's, if you're involved in a loan transaction, there's kind of like a tip off where you know that you're getting close to the end. And it's the last time they send out the closing disclosure right before loan docs. At that point, they've balanced with escrow. We know how much is needed. If you don't see that document coming out and you get something from whomever saying, you've got to send it now, we're getting ready to close,
Hmm.
you know it's not right because I haven't even told them how much is needed. So you should also, if you're getting something kind of like ahead of schedule, where I haven't said, hey, your
Hmm.
loan docs are out, here you go. If it's coming ahead of that,
Yeah.
then it's the wrong person
Okay.
because we don't have the accurate amount yet.
Okay. That makes perfect sense. Is there anything else that you think people need to know about this?
Honestly, I think that you need to slow down and
Mhm.
take your time. I think in real estate transaction, there is such a rush of
Sure.
urgency, especially at close. Everybody
Mhm.
wants to close. Everybody gets their keys. Like the lender
Yeah.
wants it right away. Everybody fun, 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 right?
Right.
But this is your money. This is your life savings. At no point in a real estate transaction should anybody be rushing you. Anybody.
Right.
Certainly when it comes to the money. So slow down, take your time, do your due diligence, make that phone call, get to know your escrow officer, right? Do all of those things because this is the biggest transaction, one of the biggest things you'll
Yeah.
ever do in your life. So take the
Yeah.
time to make sure that you confirm with everybody and you'll be just fine. I've never had it happen. I've been doing this a long time. So there's nothing to be scared of. Nothing to
Right.
be scared of. Knowledge
Just,
is power,
yep.
right? Communication is power. There's nothing to be frightened about.
Yep.
I
Just,
think that's an important message. Just be careful and you're going to be okay.
yep. Got to be aware, got to know what to
Gotta
look out
know.
for. So,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
Thank you again. I really appreciate this. I know this is going to be great information for people. So thank you for your time and hope you have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank
Have
you.
a good weekend.
You too. Bye.